In order to support Canadian workers, we will temporarily waive the 1-week employment insurance waiting period. So in other words, if people are displaced...
Over the weekend, Donald Trump announced a new trade deal with the European...
The decision by Canada to suspend all fresh potato exports from Prince Edward Island, PEI, to the United States was a moment of profound significance in the long history of bilateral trade. Welcome viewers to my channel. Please subscribe, like my video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next update. It was not a sudden, unilateral act, but a strategic and defensive maneuver taken in the face of a direct threat from the U.S. to impose its own, potentially more severe ban. This escalating crisis, triggered by the detection of a single plant pathogen, has illuminated the deep and often contentious relationship between two countries that are at once the closest of allies and fierce economic competitors. The saga of the potato wart fungus has become a microcosm of larger issues in international relations. The tension between free trade principles and national biosecurity, the profound vulnerability of regional economies to global market disruptions, and the differing regulatory philosophies that can make or break a billion-dollar industry. To fully comprehend the gravity of this situation, it is necessary to go beyond the headlines and delve into the intricate scientific, economic, and diplomatic factors at play. The science of the pathogen, an unrelenting foe. The protagonist of this story is a microscopic and highly tenacious adversary, Syncytium endobioticum, commonly known as the potato wart fungus. It belongs to an ancient and primitive group of fungi known as chytrids, which are primarily parasites. The fungus itself is not the visible wart. Rather, the wart is a tumorous growth on the potato tuber, a physical manifestation of the potato plant's extreme reaction to the infection. When the fungus infects the epidermal cells of the potato, it hijacks the plant's growth mechanisms, causing the cells to multiply and swell abnormally in a process known as hyperplasia and hypertrophy. The true danger of Syncytium endobioticum, however, lies in its life cycle and its ability to persist. The fungus produces highly resilient resting spores, or winter sporangia. These spores are encased in a thick, protective wall that allows them to remain dormant and viable in the soil for an extraordinary length of time, often for more than 40 years. They are virtually impervious to extreme temperatures, drought, and most chemical treatments, making them an almost indelible contaminant. When a host potato plant is replanted in contaminated soil, the spores are reanimated. They release mobile zoospores that seek out and infect the new plant, initiating a new cycle of disease. It is this incredible persistence that makes the fungus so feared and explains why a contaminated field is effectively unusable for potato cultivation for decades. The United States regulatory stance is a direct result of its own historical battle with this fungus. Potato wart was detected in the U.S. in the early 20th century, leading to a decades-long, government-led eradication program that cost millions of dollars. The success of this effort, while hard-won, created a national agricultural mindset of zero tolerance. The USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service, APHIS, now operates under a strict precautionary principle. Any risk of reintroducing the fungus is deemed unacceptable, regardless of how small. This philosophy stands in stark contrast to that of Canada, where a management strategy has been developed for certain regions. The difference between these two approaches, total eradication versus containment and management, is the central scientific and regulatory divide that fueled this trade dispute. The economic and social fabric of Prince Edward Island's potato industry. For Prince Edward Island, the potato is more than just a crop. It is the very lifeblood of its economy and a cornerstone of its cultural identity. Over 200 family farms, many of which have been passed down through generations, are dedicated to potato cultivation. These are not just businesses, but communities built around a shared agricultural heritage. The industry generates over $1 billion annually for the provincial economy, but this figure is merely a starting point. The true economic impact is a complex web of interconnected industries. The supply chain begins in the fields, where massive investments are made in specialized equipment for planting, irrigation, and harvesting. The potatoes are then transported to temperature and humidity-controlled storage facilities, or potato sheds, which are vital for maintaining the crop's quality until it can be shipped. From there, the potatoes are sent to packing plants for fresh market sales or to large-scale processors. The ban on fresh potato exports created an immediate and devastating surplus. With the main pipeline to the U.S. shut off, farmers had nowhere to send their product. The surplus created a logistical nightmare, overwhelming storage capacities and raising the specter of millions of pounds of perfectly good potatoes rotting in storage. The ban impacted all sectors of the industry. Seed potatoes, the most valuable of all potato products, are crucial for a healthy and abundant crop the following year. The initial ban on these exports was a crippling blow. Table stock potatoes, destined for grocery store shelves, and processing potatoes, used for everything from French fries to chips, also found their market abruptly cut off. This ripple effect has spread far beyond the farms themselves, affecting the trucking companies that ferry the potatoes off the island, the workers in the packing plants who grade and sort the crop, and the entire ecosystem of businesses that support the agricultural sector. For PEI, the potato is not just a commodity. It's the engine of its economy, and the sudden halt of this engine has created a period of unprecedented crisis. The diplomatic and regulatory impasse, a clash of philosophies. The dispute between Canada and the U.S. is rooted in a fundamental clash of regulatory philosophies. Canada's position, articulated by officials and scientists from the CFI, is that a systems approach to risk management is sufficient. This approach involves a comprehensive set of protocols, including strict quarantine zones around infected fields, extensive soil testing, and, most importantly, rigorous processing of potatoes for export. Canadian officials argue that the process of washing, brushing, and inspecting potatoes is so thorough that it effectively removes all soil, the vector for the fungus's spores, thereby making the risk of cross-border contamination negligible. This system is backed by scientific data and is compliant with international trade standards. The U.S. position, however, is based on a different interpretation of risk. Rooted in the precautionary principle, the USDA argues that even a negligible risk is an unacceptable one. They contend that in a system processing millions of potatoes, it is statistically impossible to guarantee that a single microscopic spore won't survive the washing process and cross the border. The economic damage of a single contaminated field in a major potato-growing state like Idaho would be so immense that the USDA and its political stakeholders are unwilling to take any chances. This stance places the burden of proof squarely on Canada to demonstrate, with a level of certainty that may be impossible to achieve, that its potatoes are completely risk-free. This high-stakes regulatory debate has been elevated to the highest levels of government. Canadian Agriculture Minister Marie-Claude Bobeau and U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack have been engaged in ongoing negotiations, attempting to find a resolution that satisfies both parties. The discussions are not just about the science of the fungus, but about international trade agreements like the WTO's Agreement on Sanitary and Phytosanitary Measures, SPS agreement, which allows countries to protect their food supply but requires them to base their decisions on sound science. The resolution will likely involve a combination of new, jointly audited protocols. This could include a phased reopening of the market, beginning with a small number of farms that are certified to have an enhanced level of biosecurity. It could also involve a new, jointly designed inspection regime that gives the USDA the confidence it needs to reopen the border. The outcome of these negotiations will not only determine the fate of the PI potato industry, but will also set a crucial precedent for how Canada